Welcome Aquarius to your in-depth monthly forecast for December 2024 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. If you order your year 2025 personal horoscope forecast, you also get your life roadmap report 30% off, but also my free gift of your zodiac general, love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the coming year. Please see the link below for more. The personal forecast is totally unique to each person it's produced for and will give you searing insights for the next year. You'll get the rest of 24 free. On the screen now, Aquarius, you can see your event chart right at the start of the month. And with the moon applying to the sun in the sign of Sagittarius, for you, that's your sector of sociability. But it's also the part of your horoscope to do with your highest values and also your long-term plan. So the new moon on the first day of this month gives you a glorious opportunity to really supercharge whatever it is that's really exciting you. And there can be a lot of enthusiasm because Mercury, the planet of thinking, although it's retrograde, is in an opposition with Jupiter, the planet of positivity and good fortune. Now, although they're both detrimented in each of the signs they're in, for you, this certainly can give you an extra sense of zest and bubbliness. But that new moon certainly is a chance to set your intentions. And also because you are someone who takes friendships usually very seriously, that's an area of your situation which can come back to you in an extremely dramatic way from the 7th of this month, when Venus, the planet of relating, arrives in your sign but applies to Pluto. What a combination! What's not to like? Well, it's just that your traditional ruler Saturn is saying that when it comes to the money and when it comes to your values, you could find yourself having to, in some ways, bend a little bit in terms of what you'd really like. So you can be very idealistic, but the reality of your situation means that there could be some judgment calls that you need to make. Why is this? Well, despite the fact that Mars and the North Node are applying in a tremendously vibrant ways to the new moon at the start of the month, which certainly can give you a lot of assertion through Mars, but also help you to express your ideas through the North Node. Essentially, Saturn has, since March 2023, been asking you to reimagine some of your approach to your everyday situation. Now, it may be that income has been a little bit harder to find. Costs have certainly gone up for many of us, but it's just that part of you that has got the big picture very firmly in mind may just need to adapt to that harsh reality that sometimes modern life supplies. And that could come through the guise of Saturn, because it broadly squares to the new moon, but also it T-squares to Mercury and Jupiter too. But on the 6th of this month, we do have a cazimi, a Mercury cazimi, and that's going to help you to cut through the mist, because the cazimi is going to see the sun radiate its energy into the energies of Mercury and give you an opportunity to be very precise, which can be a Mercury quality, one that can be lacking a little bit in Sagittarius, which can be a bit see the big picture, struggle with the details, but I feel you will find it easier on that day. But just be aware that then Mars does begin a retrograde, one which is going to go on through to the 25th of February, but it is going to invert into your sector of work, physical vitality and welfare from the 6th of January. But that's not a bad thing, because if you set some intentions, some New Year's resolutions towards the end of this year, the chances are Mars is going to help you to deliver them early in January. But Mars going retrograde in your sector of relating means that you're perhaps going to need to rethink certain alliances. perhaps even be a little stronger on your boundaries, or perhaps bend into the needs of other people a little bit more. The reason for this is that although Neptune goes direct on the 7th, and that's been creating some blurry energy about money too, on the 7th too, Venus, as I mentioned before, arrives in your sign, but immediately goes face to face with Mars. Don't be surprised, therefore, if you do have some kind of relationship dilemma. Part of it could be, if you're single, that more than one person is truly fascinating you. But in a committed relationship, that part of you that can be very individualistic needs to understand that at times there will be the needs of your partner, and they could assert those needs in a much more powerful way, particularly from then, but especially at the end of the month when Mars and Pluto go face to face. It's a big energy for us all, to be honest, because the opposition between Mars and Pluto can give us enormous willpower, a great deal of strength and determination, and a desire to get what we want, but we have to use that power wisely. Unfortunately, even if you're someone who tends to be very fair-minded and democratic in your approach, you could encounter someone who makes big demands on you. How will this play out? Well, that depends on your unique circumstances for sure. But if you are born right at the start of Aquarius, I feel Venus arriving to apply to Pluto at that point will give you a lot of extra charisma. And that could be really exciting, whether it's in terms of expressing creative and artistic flair and talent, or in terms of how you interact socially or romantically. But the 15th sees a full moon in your sister air sign of Gemini. And you could find yourself spoilt for choice at this part of the month and not quite sure exactly where you should head in terms of your time, energy, and interest. And part of the reason for that is Neptune, despite it going forwards, is in a square to that full moon. So there could be a situation that whatever you do, it seems that it's not entirely clear. How can you deal with that? Well, I feel that by the 21st, when the sun arrives in Capricorn, and also we have the winter solstice, of course, and the ushering in of cardinal quadrant 4, that is going to forge a T-square to the nodal axis. So there could be some thinking that you need to do, and if you do retreat a little bit through the last week of this year, despite the social opportunities there could be, don't beat yourself up about that. You may need some time to digest some of the politics of your situation, which could be shown up by the square between Jupiter in the part of your chart that's very much to do with having fun and joyfulness, and Saturn in that second house. So even if you do want to be very spontaneous, perhaps quite speculative, perhaps even very generous, I feel Saturn and latterly Neptune are asking you each time to go back to what is truly right for you in terms of your situation now. So if in the past you have been the person who's been very much the player who's knitted everyone together in a group situation, or bailed people out, or spoilt people with the level of your generosity, I think you need to put your energies into your talents at this time, but balanced in a way with what works for you in a practical financial sense, but also what you feel comfortable with those values, because this could be a month when some of your idealism is in some ways checked by the punishing realism of life. But that brings us to the 29th, when Chiron goes direct. If you have found at times, particularly since Chiron's been in Aries the last few years, that you don't always feel heard, Chiron going direct will certainly help that. But because Mars is in your opposite sign and it is opposing Pluto, again, if you're early born Aquarius, you're going to feel much more powered up, much more authoritative, and that could feel really good. But if you're further into Aquarius, it may feel that some politics are in your situation, but the new moon, which occurs on the 30th, really asks you to see in the new year, being very conscious of what your deeper needs are. And sometimes at this part of the year, Aquarius people, despite your reputation for being very bubbly, sociable and clubbable, can need some moments of peace, quiet and tranquility. So be selective about who you spend time with over the festivities. I think that's really the advice. And then as you burst into the new year, certainly once Mars moves back into Cancer, that's going to give you the opportunity to focus on any strand that you see as being important in terms of being a little bit more disciplined or virtuous early in the new year. But having Pluto in your sign for the long term and using its power to bless, the energy of Venus means that if you do have a particular quality that you don't feel has really reached an audience in the way you want, this is definitely a time to find all of your resources in order to dig in and use that energy and that grit to make sure that you're letting the maximum people know just how talented, creative and individualistic you truly can be. If you've yet to watch your year 2025 deep dive video, please see that underneath this video, Aquarius. But for now, take care, all the best, have a great Christmas and a very happy new year.